Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am with a very special guest. If you remember in the last video, we touched upon when I thought this game was going to release and also how this game leaked under everyone's radar last year from my man right here, AniPlugMedia, and I'm so happy to have you on the channel. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
Dude, I'm doing fantastic, man. You know, just Budokai Tenkaichi 4, you know? So this is like really, really exciting stuff. Really exciting, because this is something that I've been looking forward to. Really, I mean, since Raging Blast 1, I always kind of pretended that that was like Budokai Tenkaichi 4, but I feel like it missed a few steps in regards to feeling like a Tenkaichi game.
Yeah.
But man, so I want to talk about, so when do you think this game is going to release?
If I had to guess, at the earliest, I would say somewhere between fall 2024 and no. The earliest would be summer 2024.
That'd be a long time, huh?
Yeah. So the thing about, I guess, like Bandai in general is sometimes they will kind of, it's really a toss up. Sometimes they'll space out their games. Sometimes they won't. Cause like in 2022, they had Gundam come out one week, and then the JoJo the next week. And then they waited a whole month for Dragon Ball The Breakers. But at the same time, they may do something where, like with Dragon Ball specifically, 2023 is already like a very, very stacked year. We already had Kakarot on current gen. We have like all the DLC. We got the digital card game. We have fighters whenever that's gonna happen. So it's possible that they may push it to just like mid to late 2024, especially because they said that it's like it's like early in development. But
yeah, you know, that would be pretty interesting. I think the question for me would be when this went into development. If this is something that, hey, this is like a recent thing, which I think we'll talk about here in a minute, then I think that would be realistic. Like if they just said, hey, which I don't think, but let's say they started last fall and they're just now starting with this game, and what we just saw in that trailer briefly was the first things that they've done. I think I would agree. I would be like, yeah, you know, this is a 2024 game, but I'm so conflicted because I think Bandai has had a history, at least since Raging Blast 1, of releasing these games 6, 7, 8 months apart from the initial announcement. So I still think it's fall. But if they wanted to take the extra time, I'm cool with that too. I think that could be appropriate. Now with that being said, the size of the roster. Everyone wants to talk about this. And I think they've hinted at a massive roster. But I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think?
They kind of have to go with a massive roster. Like they kind of honestly back themselves into a corner just calling it New Tenkaichi, because like if we, I guess, starting out, I know they're probably going to make some cuts from Tenkaichi 3, because the whole like early, mid, end thing they had going on, there was a reason why they got rid of that in Raging Blast 1. And then the Giants, they did kind of touch on having giant characters in Burning Blood, but they were significantly scaled down. I don't know how they would handle that nowadays. So
yeah, that'd be crazy.
I would say if they do like get everyone from Tenkaichi 3 and Raging Blast 2, and then just like scale it down to get rid of the early, mid, and end, and then get rid of Giants, that starting out would be around like 150. And then if they jumped and added, I guess, everyone relevant from Super, that would push it into the 200s. But if they just do straight Super at launch, that one would be, I think I counted up to around like somewhere between 130, 140.
130, 140. That's a really sizable roster. You're thinking 130, 140 base, or is this 130, 140, then plus additional
I'm thinking
DLC.
130, 140 base, because if they really want to do next gen Tenkaichi, they're gonna have to have like a large roster. And unlike, say, like the older games, so one thing I don't think a lot of people understand this, but the reason that the older Tenkaichi games had such a large roster is that everyone in Tenkaichi 1 roughly played the same, and then in the newer games they branched out on that. And if depending on the kind of fighting game they want to do, that may not fly nowadays. So they're gonna have to be able to balance like a big roster and making like an actually decent fighting game. So if they reuse assets, they already do have some stuff from like J-Stars and Jump Force, but at the same time,
I was a really, really huge advocate for the Dragon Ball games moving into the competitive scene. That's something that I've been preaching since I first came out here on YouTube. And that was something I always wanted to see, because for me, I'm a Mortal Kombat competitive player, and that was my background as well as Dragon Ball Z. So seeing Dragon Ball take that next step into the competitive scene was a dream come true with fighters. And I think that coming from fighters moving into Budokai Tenkaichi 4, I don't know if that's going to be the same level of concern for them, which I hope it is. I hope we can get a Budokai Tenkaichi 4 competitively and see that at EVO. But when I speak on the size of the roster, I hear exactly what you're saying. Are they going to be able to take a huge sizable roster and make each and every single character feel unique enough to the point where when you're playing as Goku, you don't feel like you're playing as Cell, who has a similar, combo pattern, I guess. And that's a really, really big question. As far as DLC, I really actually, some people don't like it, but I actually like the idea of DLC being released periodically over time, because I feel like when games like Fighters, when they did that, this is a perfect example. They released DLC for years, and it brought me back to the game, where I would feel like I'm kind of done with this for now, let me move on to something else, and then they come back next summer with some new character. I'm like, okay, let me revisit Fighters. So I really would like to see Budokai Tenkaichi have some kind of longevity to it.
I actually think that, I guess in this space, or with anime gamers specifically, I've noticed that a lot of these people tend to think in extremes and nothing else. And I think that games like, say, I guess for some fighting game players, like, I think Street Fighter Cross Tekken ruined everyone's perception of DLC. And they, nothing has ever really fixed it. Because, I'm seeing people say, oh, we want Tenkaichi 4 to be this complete game, but you have to understand that nowadays, with fighting games specifically, if you're getting a complete game, that means that they're done working on the game. Because, as long as it sells,
right,
as long as there's a community there, common sense would be, hey, let's keep adding to this game. But a lot of people don't see it that way.
Right. I had a huge, huge love for Raging Blast 1 and 2, really, but 1 was really the game that, to me, for whatever reason, is just in my heart. And I remember at the time, I was like, man, I just wish they would add a couple more characters. I thought the base roster was great as a starting point, but I felt like, man, if we got Ultimate Gohan, then we got maybe a couple other guys to join that roster, would have been really, really awesome. And obviously, Raging Blast 2 brought in a lot of those characters I was thinking about at the time. But yeah, it is a really interesting question, because if they want to have a really big roster, can they get away with making everyone play in a similar fashion? Would that fly in 2023? I don't know. We'd have to see. I'm down with that. I'm cool. But I wouldn't mind if everyone did play unique.
So as far as arena fighters go, I've seen like a lot of other developers and a lot of games kind of like, I guess, progressed from like the old days of with like Storm 1, everyone playing maybe not exactly the same, but it was very similar to like having like One's Justice and Burning Blood, where you can tell that everyone plays differently. And then these like their starting rosters for like One's Justice 2 was in the 40s, Burning Blood was in the 40s. I think if depending on, I guess, what assets they have, if they're making everything from scratch, it's going to be very difficult. But at the same time, we've had games like Kakarot being like these huge games, so they may be able to devote like the time and the resources to get it done. But at the same time, it's kind of a toss-up.
Well, I think it also lends into the question of when this game kind of went into development. So if this is, you know, a 2021 developed game, would they have enough time in 2.5 years to put together a sizable roster that can satisfy the cravings for the fans, but also have enough time to really iron out some of the moves lists for these characters? When do you think this game went into development?
Personally, I think it may have went into development maybe around somewhere between mid to late 2021, sometime between the like the release of Jump Force's Switch version and the announcement that Jump Force was getting shut down. If depending on, I guess, like what goes into making a Switch port, either the team who was on that just kind of went on it immediately after Jump Force was out, or these two things were like working, like we're going at the same time, because Spike has like they had previously worked on 2 different games at the same time. It didn't go well, but they have done it before.
Now that's a really interesting topic you just brought up there. Is Spike coming back? That's a big one, man. Dude, you really last year you kind of did something really, really crazy, man. You uncovered that Bandai had trademarked the name Sparking, which is the name in Japan for the game Budokai Tenkaichi 4, or Budokai Tenkaichi as we know it here in the US. And you found that, you did some really great digging, and dude, it just kind of flew under the radar, which is crazy. But how did you feel about that? What were you thinking at the time?
So at the time I was kind of just like keeping an eye on like a whole bunch of different games, like I was I was kind of just looking at these things in bulk. So like at the same time that I found like the Sparking trademark, I think I found it either I guess close to when it was actually trademarked, which was in December 2021. So if I remember correctly, I may have found it in, say, like January or February when I was looking up like Xenoverse 3 stuff. And then it just kind of, it didn't click at first. And then when I had come back to it and I realized, wait, I've heard Sparking before. So then at that point, I kind of pushed this to the back of my mind again, because in my mind, I was thinking, okay, Breakers is 2022. Xenoverse 3 is probably going to be after that. So this trademark right here, either it's like some Idolmaster shit or it's a new Tenkaichi. So I just kind of, I was kind of being a jackass when I said it. I said, oh yeah, this like it might be Tenkaichi. I was kind of just being that guy, and then it turned out, oh, it actually was. So that threw me off.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy because I actually, man, when I saw that, I was like, wow, like you were really onto this, and it's just such an explosive release or announcement. And I know that when I first saw the announcement that they released, I was like, man, this is blowing my mind. I couldn't even finish it. I had to call my friends. I was like, hey, look, did you know they're bringing back Budokai Tenkaichi?
Man, I was at the battle hour when they announced it. It was crazy.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah.
Oh, man, so you saw it live?
Yeah, like, legit, this was like the second convention that I've ever been to. And it happens to be the one where they announced a new Tenkaichi. It's like, all right, I guess I got to start coming to these more.
I wish I went. I wish I went. Dude, I have a feeling they're going to bring this to E3. So I, for sure, if I can figure out that that's going to be the case, I'm going. I don't know if you'll be there. If you are, we got to link up. We got to actually get our hands on this game. Very much looking forward to that. I think we're going to probably get some more, hopefully, gameplay of this game prior to E3, but I think that's when we're going to get it. If I'm being realistic, I know I don't want to get my hopes up. E3, we'll probably for sure see the game. That's my opinion. Do you agree?
Yeah, we should. And as far as it goes with just like the release schedule, depending on how they handle it, I do think they do have enough content to just basically, I guess, like announce something every month up until it's released.
I think that would be a really smart choice. I also, man, after seeing what we've seen, the just insane animations and graphics from fighters, I feel like, man, just with this new game, they're gonna just go crazy. I can already just tell, just by the brief glimpse that we saw, just a very brief glimpse, I can just tell that the animations are gonna be insane. They're gonna be crazy, dude. The ultimates, the supers. You know, I hope, yeah, like when you're transforming in game, like just that feeling of like going Super Saiyan. I hope we can actually get that, and that can be shown in the game. And from what we just saw, like the very brief footage that we saw, I think they're nailing it. They're knocking it out the park. I'm definitely not too concerned with the game. I just have questions, more so of, like I think we already touched upon, are these characters going to be unique? Are they going to be kind of similar just so they could get a big roster? I'm sure we'll have the answers to that shortly. But hey, man, thank you for coming on here. Really appreciate you coming in here chatting with me. Guys, AniPlugMedia, I'm going to link his YouTube. I'm going to link his Twitter in here. We're going to definitely be chatting over here again soon. So
Nice meeting you, man.
hey, nice to meet you as well. See ya.